What if I told you that your body is running a survival system so ancient that dinosaurs used it, and that right now, as you're reading this, there's a silent chemical battle inside you, deciding whether you're going to raid the kitchen in the next 20 minutes or stay put? Hunger isn't just a growl in your stomach, it's an army of hormones, neurons, and electrical signals waging war for your attention. And what they're doing is so complex, it makes artificial intelligence look like child's play. Hit that like if you've ever opened the fridge for no apparent reason just because your brain told you to. Because what you're about to discover about your own body will make you question every food decision you've ever made in your life. Here's what's going to blow your mind right from the start. Hunger doesn't live in your stomach. Yeah, you heard that right. That rumble, that emptiness you feel when you haven't eaten, that's just the messenger. The real controller, the brain behind the entire operation, is a tiny cluster of cells in your hypothalamus the size of an almond that are constantly monitoring every glucose molecule in your blood, every hormonal signal flowing through your system, every fat reserve in your body. These neurons are like NASA mission control, but for your metabolism, making millions of decisions per second about whether you need energy now or if you can wait. And here's the crazy twist: they can be hacked, fooled, and completely confused by the modern world in ways our ancestors could never have imagined. Let's unpack this from scratch, because the science behind hunger is a molecular detective story we're only beginning to solve. When your blood sugar drops, your pancreas stops pumping insulin and starts releasing a hormone called glucagon that screams at your liver to release stored sugar. But simultaneously, your fat cells, which are basically biological batteries, start reducing production of leptin, the satiety hormone. When leptin drops, your brain panics because it thinks you're starving, even if you just ate 3 hours ago. This triggers the release of ghrelin from your stomach, the true hunger hormone, which travels straight to your hypothalamus and basically screams, "Eat now or die," in chemical language. And here's where it gets wild. Recent studies from 2024 show that ghrelin doesn't just make you hungry, it actually makes you more impulsive, reduces your self-control, and literally changes how your brain values food versus other rewards. But wait, because there are like a dozen other hormones at this chemical party. You've got peptide, YY, that releases from your intestines when you eat protein and makes you feel full. There's cholecystokin that fires when you eat fats and slows your stomach down so food stays longer. There's GLP-1, which is literally being bottled into weight loss drugs now because it's so powerful at suppressing appetite. Each of these molecules is talking to each other in an incredibly complex symphony, and your brain is conducting the whole orchestra while deciding whether you need a sandwich or can wait until dinner. Scientists studying this describe the system as more complex than predicting weather, because there are so many variables interacting simultaneously that even supercomputers struggle modeling it accurately. Now, let's talk about why this elegant system is breaking down in the modern world, because this is where the story gets personal for all of us. Our ancestors evolved this hunger system over millions of years when food was scarce, unpredictable, and required massive effort to obtain. Your body is literally programmed to expect famines, to hoard every calorie, to crave sugars and fats, because those were rare and valuable. But then agriculture came along 10,000 years ago, and more recently food industrialization. And suddenly we're surrounded by ultra-processed calories designed in laboratories specifically to hack our brain's reward system. Researchers have shown that certain processed foods activate the same neurological pathways as addictive drugs. We're talking about the same dopamine circuits that respond to cocaine. Drop in the comments if you've ever felt like you can't stop eating chips once you start. Because it's not lack of willpower, it's pure neuroscience. Here's where it gets really fascinating: your gut microbiome. Those trillions of bacteria living in your intestines are literally voting on what you should eat. Recent discoveries show that different bacterial species produce different signaling molecules that affect your appetite and cravings. Some bacteria thrive on fiber and vegetables, and when they're happy, they produce compounds that make you feel satisfied and energized. Other bacteria love sugar and fat, and when they're starving, they can release signals that make you crave exactly those foods. It's like having a parliament of microbes inside you voting democratically on your next meal. Except the system has been gerrymandered by years of Western diet, high in sugar. Studies from 2025 are showing you can literally change your cravings by changing your microbiome in as little as 2 weeks with dietary changes, which is both amazing and terrifying at the same time. But let's dive deeper into the brain itself, because that's where the magic really happens. Your hypothalamus contains two main groups of neurons that are basically the angel and devil on your shoulder regarding food. GRP neurons are your hunger neurons. When they activate, you become obsessed with food. Everything looks delicious, and you experience what scientists call motivated hunger, where you'll actively seek out food. POMC neurons are your satiety neurons. When they're firing, you feel satisfied. Food loses its appeal, and you can think about something other than your next meal. But here's the crazy part. These neurons are constantly competing, inhibiting each other, and the balance between them determines whether you're going to eat or not. And they can be influenced by everything: how much you slept, how stressed you are, whether you saw a food commercial 5 minutes ago, even how much exercise you did today. Let's talk about how sleep completely destroys this system, because nobody talks about this enough. When you don't get enough sleep, your ghrelin levels shoot up while your leptin crashes, creating the perfect storm of false hunger. Your brain also becomes more sensitive to food rewards, while simultaneously your prefrontal cortex, the part that makes rational judgments, partially shuts down. This is why after a sleepless night, you can easily devour twice the calories you'd normally eat and choose terrible options. Studies tracking people show that a single night of sleep deprivation can increase your next day's caloric intake by up to 300 to 500 calories, and most of it comes from snacks and junk food. Stress does something similar. It pumps cortisol that interferes with your leptin, makes you crave high-fat and high-sugar comfort foods, and literally rewards your brain more intensely when you eat while stressed, creating a vicious cycle. Now let's move to where all this is heading, because the future of understanding and controlling hunger is like something out of science fiction. Researchers are developing biosensors that can track your hormone levels in real time and predict when you're going to get hungry before you consciously feel it. They're developing gene therapies that could modify how your hunger neurons respond to signals, potentially curing certain types of obesity at their neurological source. We already have drugs like semaglutide that mimic GLP-1 and are producing weight loss that scientists thought impossible a decade ago. People losing 15 to 20% of their body weight, something previously only possible with surgery. But here's the debate: should we be medicalizing hunger, or should we be fixing the food environment that broke it in the first place? Skeptics argue we're putting a pharmaceutical band-aid on a systemic problem, while proponents point out that for someone struggling with severe obesity, these tools are literally life-saving. Artificial intelligence technology can now predict your hunger patterns based on thousands of data points: your genetics, your microbiome, your sleep patterns, your stress levels, even the specific calories and macronutrients you ate in previous meals. Apps are being developed that could tell you exactly what to eat and when to optimize your energy levels while minimizing unproductive hunger. Sounds incredible, but it also raises questions. Do we want to outsource something as fundamental as deciding when to eat to an algorithm? What about the social pleasure of food, the spontaneity, the cultural connection that comes from sharing meals? Now let's paint a speculative scenario that's closer than you think. 10 years from now, you might wake up wearing a biosensor patch that's been monitoring your hunger hormones all night. Your phone notifies you that based on your sleep patterns and current ghrelin and leptin levels, you'll experience a hunger spike around 10 in the morning. It suggests a specific breakfast high in protein and fiber that will fuel your microbiome in ways that stabilize your appetite for 6 hours. You eat that, and sure enough, you sail through your morning without cravings or energy crashes. When lunch comes, the app notes your glucose is perfect, but certain metabolites suggest you'd benefit from complex carbohydrates. So it guides you toward options that will satisfy your biology without triggering overeating. By evening, it detects elevated cortisol from work stress and proactively suggests a comfort meal that will satisfy the psychological urge while delivering optimal nutrition. You lose weight without feeling hungry, your energy stabilizes, and your relationship with food transforms from constant struggle to informed partnership. But here's the counterpoint: nobody talks about what happens when you unplug all that technology. Have you trained your body and brain to self-regulate? Or have you become dependent on external guidance? The real mastery might come from understanding these systems so deeply that you can feel your body's signals and interpret what you truly need versus what your hijacked neurons are screaming you want. Studies on intuitive eating show that people can relearn to distinguish physical hunger from emotional hunger, to eat when they truly need it and stop when they're satisfied. but it requires undoing decades of conditioning and really tuning in to the subtle signals your hunger system is constantly sending. This completely changed how I see every craving, every food decision, every moment when I think I'm hungry. It's not weakness or lack of control. It's an incredibly sophisticated system designed for a world that no longer exists, struggling to navigate a food landscape that confuses it at every corner. Hunger is survival coded into hormones and neurons, and understanding it is understanding one of the most powerful forces guiding human behavior. Smash that subscribe button for more dives into the mysteries of your own body. Drop in the comments what craving you can't beat, and share this with someone who needs to understand that their hunger isn't the enemy, it's just a messenger with an outdated message. Because once you understand the science, you can start working with your biology instead of against it. And that changes the whole game of health, energy, and how you experience one of the most fundamental pleasures of being alive.